Hegel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fair 64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. This is the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. We got a loaded slate for you today. I'm not even kidding. I'm not joking. I am totally serious. We got a huge slate of stuff to talk about today. I've been playing a lot of games this past week. There's a good amount of news. So let's just get started with the first part of the show, which is a final review for Foamstars. Foamstars released on PlayStation Plus Essentials, which was a blessing in disguise. I was not planning on playing Foamstars, but when they announced that it was coming to PlayStation Plus, I figured, well, I guess I'll jump in and see what all this foaming is about, right? I'm foaming at the mouth to see what this foam is all about. And me and my friends picked it up and we're playing it, and look, it's not the most broken multiplayer game that's ever been released. It's also not the most broken game that released the past week. But is it worth playing in the end? Well, let's find out. So, like I said, Foamstars released on PlayStation Plus, so if you do have the Essentials tier, you can pick that up for no extra cost. If you want to buy the game, I believe it's about $40, which isn't too bad, seeing as Square Enix is the publisher developer behind it, and usually they like to price things up a bit. But with the offerings that Foamstars gives you, it's not a bad price for the game. It's also not a bad deal for the game, I guess. The multiplayer is obviously going to be the main meat and bones for you to pick at, but there's also some single player and co-op elements as well that wraps up the package a little bit nicer than it just being a Splatoon ripoff that has only multiplayer, right? So let's start with the basics. The game gives you a small tutorial at the beginning to kind of teach you how the game works. There's also the single-player mode, the mission mode or whatever it's called, where you also learn the basics of each character individually. So if you want to, you could do that before you jump into multiplayer. It's not recommended, but it's one of those things like, okay, you can get a feel for each of the base characters in the game and play their little, get a little background on their history, I guess. But the tutorial does a decent job of just being like, hey, this is what the game's all about. This is what we're all about. We're not trying to make this like a competitive, like, rage-inducing game. We're just trying to make it like it's Foamstars. You're shooting people with foam, and the goal of the game is to, knock out your opponents and capture rubber duckies, and that's pretty much it. So instead of calling them kills in the game, if you eliminate a player, it's called a chill, which I thought was, kind of cute. It's kind of cute. I mean, they're trying hard to reduce gamer rage in the gaming sphere, I guess. I don't know. So the game is definitely like Splatoon inspired. It's obviously not exactly Splatoon. If you don't know what Splatoon is, it's a Nintendo franchise where these little squid and octopus kind of characters shoot different color ink at the battlefield, and it's not about getting eliminations. It's more about who can ink up the most space on a map, which I find pretty fun. You can go for eliminations if you want to, but obviously the way to win is to ink the ground and stuff and get the most. It's kind of like graffiti in Tony Hawk Pro Skater back in the day, where the more real estate you have, the better chance you're gonna have. You're gonna win at the end of the game. So when I was making those comparisons, it's not a direct comparison. There is a major link, and the major link is that you use the foam to squirt the battlefield. But the main thing about Foamstars is you go for the eliminations. You don't go for the amount of foam on the field. And the real link here is that when you spray down foam, you can do like a surfboard across it to make you go faster, essentially. And in Splatoon, if you ink an area, you can turn into a little squid form and go underground or under the level to refill your ink, and then also pop up and much faster in different areas of the map. So that's kind of what they saved from, or what they used directly from Splatoon, is you put down your foam, it makes a foamy area, and then you surfboard across it to get to a different location faster. Now, you can't shoot while you're surfing or anything like that, but the main reason that you want to surf, not only for flanking capabilities, but also that's the only way to eliminate players quickly. So what you do is you foam up a player, they get put into like a bouncy ball, and they roll around, and then you use the surfboard to smack into them and eliminate them, or chill them. They also get chilled if they just kind of sit around for like a couple seconds without getting hit by anything. So there's an automatic chill. And then if they get hit by their own player while they're in that form, they'll be saved. The one thing I don't like about this is even if you escape the enemy who foamed you up, you'll automatically get eliminated no matter what. I felt like a better idea would have been to, if you get away from the opposing character, and they don't smack you with their surfboard, that maybe make it like 15 seconds, 10 seconds. The foam will dissipate and you can go back to playing. But instead, it's about 5 seconds, and then you get automatically eliminated, which I don't like, because there's been multiple times where the person that I'm fighting against is either eliminated by someone else, or just for whatever reason I was able to elude them by just kind of like bouncing around a lot, and they weren't able to hit me with their surfboard, but I automatically got eliminated because another teammate wasn't around at the time or whatever. I just feel like maybe make it that you can only get eliminated or saved by a surfboard, or make it the other way where it's like you can get eliminated by a surfboard or whatever, but you can escape the ensnarement of the foam after a couple, maybe about 10 seconds of being foamed up. That would have been a better idea, in my opinion, for that. As it stands, it's fine. It's not like the end of the world. It's one of those things. It's like it definitely inspires you to work better with your teammates. Obviously, so clumping up and being in groups is a lot better than just going at it solo most of the time. But there are some characters in the game that you can unlock that kind of excel at solo combat. There's like this butler dude who has just the most overpowered abilities out of all the characters, and he's like unlocked at level 5, and he has like a foam sprayer, and then he has like a wall of foam that he can put up, and then he also has like an ability to like have foam crash and rain down from above like an artillery strike, and it just really seems overpowered a lot of the time. The other characters in the game range from okay/mediocre to good enough. One of my favorite characters was this guy who was had a shotgun. So close range, he could dish out really good damage. He also had abilities that allowed him to merge the gap a lot faster and stuff like that. I thought that he was a pretty decent character. There's other character who is called like Penguin, who hails from Antarctica, and she has like an assault rifle with some offensive capabilities, like a penguin that can shoot out in front of her and disperse foam everywhere. She was pretty good. The OG character who is in every single trailer, who is most likely bait for Rule 34 enjoyers, I guess. She has like two submachine gun kind of foam things. She has a really fast fire rate, but it doesn't hold a lot of foam inside of it. She has some more basic abilities like shooting in a wide range and throwing like a grenade and whatever. Every character has like an ultimate ability too. So like her ultimate ability, she like goes into like a ball form, and she can run into opponents. The shark guy has like a heat-seeking shark that goes after the nearest player. Um, the penguin girl has like a penguin something like a bomb or something. I forget exactly what it is. And there's a whole bunch of other ones as well. And each character does have a pretty unique play style. Like the one girl has a charge gun. The you charge it up a little bit and it does like a quick shot, like a quick burst shot. The other guy has a charge gun as well, but it makes like roly big like snowball type foams. And it comes out. There's another guy who's called a Rave Breaker, who has like a sprayer, like a flamethrower almost, but it sprays foam, which is good for like defensive capabilities and stuff like that. So all of them have their own special abilities, and they all have their own play style. So choosing between characters is going to give you a completely different game play than the other one. So that's nice. It has a little bit of variety in there with the characters, and I'm sure they'll be adding more characters as the game goes on. I believe there's already a season of content that's being revved up. So in general, the multiplayer is fine. It's fun at times, but it's also a little bit frustrating at times. Me and my friends were playing, and we're working together as a team. And for some reason, we kept getting matched against like these teams that like were so cohesive and they were so good that we couldn't even leave our spawn. And that kind of thing really kind of irks me. There is only one spawn point for each team on either side of the map, and especially when you're playing those game modes where it's all about eliminations or chills. When the other team pushes so far and they are just killing you out of the gate, it really just starts to ruin the experience, and they really need to put something in place to alleviate that. Swap the spawns, change your spawn location, give you some invincibility after launching from the spawn chute. Anything that'll help with that, because by the end of it, when the team is pushing you so hard and you can't really do anything, because as soon as you land you're getting pelted by skills and foam, it starts to get really annoying and really frustrating, which is the thing that I think they need to work on if this game does want to have some longevity. Balancing is a key, and also giving you different spawn points would also be nice. Because as it stands, it feels a lot like Modern Warfare 2 when that originally came out in like 2009, where people could just spawn camp you and just keep killing you over and over again, and that's pretty annoying, FYI. So even though I don't mind the multiplayer, I think there's things that they could improve upon. There's obviously some little things that I thought they could have added or done differently to make the game a little bit better. As I already mentioned, the whole foaming up thing where you can't escape it if you don't get hit by your own player's surfboard. I feel like you should be able to roll away and do whatever. I also feel like having the foam be a part of the match more would have made a difference. I mean, in the trailers, they showed these people building giant towers of foam and shooting each other from up on top of these foam towers. But really, in general, you can't really build your foam up that far. I mean, a couple inches at most. And it's just a very strange thing. It's like, why can't we build up our foam more? Why does the foam affect the battlefield a little bit more? Like maybe splice in that partial Splatoon thing where it's like, okay, the most foam on the field gets a little bit of an extra bonus point. Even if you lose by like one elimination, you could overtake it or tie it if you do enough foam on the battlefield. I don't know, something stupid like that might have made it a bit more lucrative to foam up the battlefield, because as it stands, your foam can be overdone. Even if you layer it on top of each other, your foam can be like eliminated really quickly. It's kind of annoying. In Splatoon, it's kind of the same way, but that's only like a one layer type thing. You squirt your ink over the battlefield, and boom, you've taken over the enemy's stuff without having to aim at something for a couple seconds. So yeah. Let's talk about the missions a little bit more. So the single player content is what I determined would be like my beaten point of the game, quote unquote, because there are 6 different sets of missions with 3 levels each inside of them, and they range from kind of funny to just outright cringe. and you start off with that original girl that I was talking about with the SMGs, and she runs like a radio show, and throughout the entire mission, she's like talking to people who are pretending to be children. And it's just so weird and it's cringy, and like the same dialogue repeats itself over and over again because, whatever. And I just felt like while listening to the dialogue, so every time you beat 10 wave, like it's a wave defender essentially. The missions are just a wave defender, and they're all pretty much the same. Every single for all 6 characters is pretty much the same thing. You fight on the same map twice, and then you go to a third map, which is the same map for every single character. It does get a little bit harder as you go on, but other than that, it's pretty much the same enemies, the same configurations, the same, the same la-di-da-di-da, the same tactics that you're going to be using. And the little foam enemies that they throw at you are cute. I like the idea of a wave defender for this game. I think that's a really good idea, but they didn't flesh it out at all, which is just really painfully annoying. The main thing is just to kind of get you used to the character and then throw a little bit of backstory in there. Have some really low effort cinematics, I guess you could say, or cutscenes where it's literally just 2 characters talking and their pictures are lighting up. And then they show like a still image of something that they're talking about, and that's the entire cutscene. It's just so low effort, and it's so low effort, in fact, that I want to say, and I don't know this 100%. I'm just speculating, but I really feel like the game was written by like ChatGPT or some sort of AI, because the dialogue just really is that painfully bad. The voice acting can be fine at times, but a lot of like the ones. The ones that I really noticed it the most that it could have been an AI was during the first girl I was talking about. I think it's Alicia or I don't remember her name. The one with the pink hair and the dual SMGs. Any dialogue coming out from that sounded AI like to me, in terms of wording. And then the other one that was really super apparent was the one with the girl with the charge shot. That one also felt very AI written to me as well. The other ones maybe were a combination at times. The one that I thought was written the best was the penguin one, and that's the reason why I remember her name, because like I actually had enjoyment while listening to the dialogue and playing through those levels with her, because they had like this really absurd stuff going on. Like she was talking to like a seal, or whatever, a seal guy, and she was talking to a penguin, and then she was talking to her penguin mom, and it's just one of those things that it was so absurd and kind of funny at times, especially early on when you don't understand what the walrus or seal is saying. So it's just doing like the walrus noises or seal noises. And I thought that was pretty funny, and I thought that was going to be the entire dialogue, and I thought that would have been a pretty funny thing. But eventually it's like, oh, and now she knows how, the now she can listen to, she can understand them while we can't, or whatever, and then it turns over to the voice acting. But still, it was a fun time. It was actually the most fun I had with the mission modes. And after I was done with that one, it went back to being like the mundane, like basic stuff. And like I said before, every one of these things ends on the same mission, essentially, just maybe a little bit more difficult depending, how far you are through I thought, because I didn't find any of them difficult. I didn't have to restart any of them, but the final guy's set of missions definitely felt a little bit more difficult, especially that last mission. I felt like his was the most difficult out of all of them, but it still wasn't like hard. Like, I'm not saying that like I struggled. I just felt like it was the one that I felt the most pressure on, and the one that I felt like the enemies were actually kind of getting a little bit of a one-up on me. But maybe it's because the character's bad, or maybe I was bad with the character. I don't know. But he was the last missions that I did, so it feels like it was, just a progressively more difficult thing, but I don't know. It's just one of those things. I'm not 100% sure. I just know that it was the hardest set of missions, even though hard is subjective here because it wasn't at all difficult. It just felt the hardest out of all of them. If you get my drift. So, yeah. So the mission mode is not really worth playing unless you really want to get to know the characters. At the end of the day, most people are going to skip this, or maybe play 1 or 2 and then skip the rest of them. There is a co-op mode, which is another wave defender, and I thought that this was the most fun in the game. Me and my friends were playing the easy Wave Defender and we had some fun with it. We did it like twice. It was pretty fun. There's also a harder version of it which actually is difficult. Unlike the missions structure, hard is not subjective here. It's actually difficult to do the co-op hard wave defender. You have to survive 10 waves. The foam beasts have more health. They do more foam damage, etc., etc. So it actually is a little bit more difficult than the missions, and it's actually a lot more difficult. I haven't actually been able to finish the hard mode, and maybe it's because all my the two friends I was playing with decided to either not play the game anymore or do something else while I was trying to work on this. But it's which is fine. It's understandable. I mean, the game it's fun in short bursts or maybe small doses, but it's just not it's not one of those games that I feel myself like, oh, I'm gonna go back to this game every week and do my dailies and do my weeklies. And no, it's not like that at all. I honestly think that this is going to die out pretty quickly. If you're waiting on the game, there's definitely the possibility of a sale coming up sooner rather than later. It's just one of those games that I just don't see longevity in, especially because we've gotten to the worst part of this review, which is the microtransactions inside the game. There are some cosmetics that are gonna cost you upwards of like $10 for a skin or something like that, and the bundles themselves are worth like $50. It's actually insane. For a cheerleader outfit for the first character, if you want all the fixins, it's like 50 fucking bucks, or like 15 on its own, or 10 on its own. It's actually quite insane. I was not expecting this level of debauchery inside of a game that's just so geared. It's actually geared towards kids. Like, it's actually geared towards kids. After playing through all the missions and going through the tutorial and all that stuff, this is definitely a kid-centered game. This is not a game that was designed for young adults or adults. This was a game designed for the kids. It's because they don't call it kills, they call it chills. All the campaign missions have like a kid talking in them, to try and, I guess, connect with the children playing the game. Like, the missions in general are easy because a kid's going to play the missions probably. Each character has roughly the same combat style in terms of just like regular foam shooting. And it's like, yeah, that's understandable for kids. Like, the more in-depth stuff, they'll be able to understand. But, it's one of those things that you start off with a baseline, like press R2 to shoot, press square to reload. Boom, there you go. You pretty much have the entire game in your pocket right there. This is definitely a game geared towards kids, and they have slammed in some pretty aggressive microtransactions. Now, none of it is going to improve your character or anything like that in terms of like skills or anything, but it's just one of those things that you look at it and it's just like, that's gross. Like, why am I seeing $49.99 for this skin pack? Like, that is obscene, and it's only one skin, one background, one title card, one emote, one profile picture, and they're charging you like $50 fucking dollars for it. It's actually insane. It's actually really insane. It's gross. It's egregious. So, all in all, let me wrap this up here. All in all, the game is about as mediocre as you think it is. The game does not do anything that excels above and beyond the base of what you expect from a $40 multiplayer shooter. Surprisingly, it does have single player content. Unsurprisingly, it's not great. There's just so many things that just really irk me about the game. But in the end, I really did find the game to just kind of be just average, and maybe a little bit below average, but not low enough to really make me give it a negative score, which would be in like the 1 to 2.5 range. But it's also not anything better than the average score for a game. Like, the microtransactions really bring this down. The not the cinematics, but like the cutscenes after missions and stuff. It's just the bare minimum. That's what I'll say. It's the bare minimum that Square Enix had to do to flesh this game out and give it a $40 price tag, right? And I'm glad that this isn't a $70 game, because if these microtransactions were in a $70 game, I think I would be flipping my shit even more. But still, a $40 game where you have to pay $40 for a skin pack, pretty crazy. Don't give in to this, people. I know the cheerleader outfit like is a niche for a lot of people, okay? But just don't give into it. Don't pay the inflated prices for a skin pack. It doesn't even help you win the game. It barely does anything in the game. It's just a skin pack. Like it's only one skin too. You're literally paying $40 for one skin and then some fixins on the side. It's not good. So in the end, I'm gonna give it the mediocre score of a 3 out of 5. It might be lower if I play a little bit more, but as of this point, I'm pretty much done with it. I just may want to get to level 25 to get that gold trophy, I guess. And then there's also the hard mode on the co-op mission, which I thought was a decent enough challenge to maybe do that as well. But as of right now, I'm kind of done with the game. There's other games coming out now that are going to be put into the mix, and Foamstars will probably be forgotten after this month is over, and it goes back to being $40 instead of being on PlayStation Plus. And it's really sad because I believe Foamstars is a PlayStation exclusive for right now, and this is just like the most mediocre PlayStation release that I've seen in quite some time. So there you go. But once again, at least it's not completely broken. At least it's got some balancing in there. At least it's got some fun to it, which is more than I can say for a game that we'll talk about later. But as of right now, Foamstars, 3 out of 5. Thank you for listening to this final review. Okay, let's move on to what else I've been playing this past week. Okay, so there's a fair amount of games that I've been playing this week, and I would like to give each of them their time to be talked about. So this is probably going to be the long section of the podcast. I mean, we already was talking about Foamstars for what, almost 30 minutes there. So, this is definitely going to be the longest section. So, sit back and relax. I will be time stamping the major stuff that I'm talking about, like the first thing here and the second thing after it. So I don't mind if you skip around in the podcast. It's fine. That's why I put timestamps there, because not everyone wants to hear about Foamstars or Skull and Bones or whatever. So, but we will get started here with Skull and Bones, the Skull and Bones beta. And I said last week that I would try it out and see how it is and let y'all know my thoughts. I did not have high expectations at all going into it. I actually had relatively low expectations. Every trailer that we've seen since like 2014 when the game was revealed has kind of been waning my want for the game, especially the latest one that really dived into the crafting and material gathering aspect of the game, and they made it look much worse than it actually is. Let me start off by saying that the trailers for the game really don't do it justice at all, because essentially they showed the ship going up a rock formation or a tree and starting to do the material gathering aspect of it. But honestly, you don't even need to do the material gathering aspect of the game, because the ships that you find that you can sink and get and steal their resources have all those materials. They have coconuts, they have iron ore, they have copper, they have uncut gems, they have all this stuff. So you don't even need to do the tedious mining aspect of the game, which isn't really even tedious at all. It's just a little bit of a quick time event where you press R2 at the right time to mine more ore. So that's one thing that you can just eliminate from your mind right now. You don't need to do any of the resource gathering, because these little ships that are on trade routes have the resources you need. You just need to either sink them or board them. That's pretty much it. And then the other thing that I was a little bit nervous about was the plundering of towns, and it just looked really basic. And essentially, it looked like you just had a quick cutscene of like the pirates leaving your ship and going on land, and then you got the resources. That's not it at all. There's guard towers around that you need to take out. The city itself can be shot at if you want to. I don't think it really does anything. But then they also call in waves of ships to try and beat you, which makes it a lot more entertaining. Now, the first area is not going to have like the most bombastic battles ever, but I did kind of go to some outreaching areas that were a little bit past the cap of the level cap for the beta, and they really did start to get pretty challenging, and I was really starting to have a lot of fun with the game. Now, it does start off on a bit of like a slow thing. Essentially, you shipwreck after like a little tutorial at the beginning of the game that just kind of teaches you the basics. You shipwreck, and your captain is killed. And essentially, you are pulled up out of the water on a fishing dhow, and that's kind of your first ship for the game. And you can kind of go around that area. You pretty much go from one side to the other, gather some things, fight some sharks if you want to. But there's really nothing to do in that first area other than like do the main story mission, maybe gather some stuff and learn how some of the mechanics work and move on. And essentially, you can never go back to that first section because it's only built for the Dow. It's only built for that first area. But you can kind of zoom through that in like 15 to 20 minutes. It's not really that long of a section. It's just a lot of like going back and forth between two locations or a few locations. And I was really starting to get worried because I'm like, oh God, is this really going to be the whole game where you're just going from point A to point B and gathering something or getting something from someone and then bringing it back? Luckily, it's not that basic. Once you get your full, like your ship, like your actual ship, the first one you can use to plunder and pillage, and take part in nefarious pirate matters. That's when the game really started to speak to me. And I know that there's a bit of that Assassin's Creed 4 nostalgia running through my veins right now. I played it about 3 years ago again, 100%, and I still loved it every minute of it. But the main thing about that game that I really love is the ship battling stuff. And same thing with Rogue. Even though Rogue, I think, is a little bit of a better game story-wise and combat-wise, the ship combat was still, like, stellar. It was really, really good. There was, like, reverse boarding and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. Now, if you're going into Skull and Bones like me and thinking Assassin's Creed, you're going to be a little bit disappointed because Skull and Bones is only the ship battling stuff. Like, yeah, there are some on-foot stuff that you can do, but it's pretty much just walking and talking or purchasing items or crafting items in the market or the store or whatever or wherever you're at, trading items. There's no combat on foot, which I do like. Don't get me wrong, I do think that the game does need that. I think that for a $70 game to only have the ship battling stuff is a bit weird. It's a bit odd. But I didn't find myself minding because I was pretty much just 100%. I was like 95% of the time in my ship doing stuff on the high seas, and that's really where the game pulled me in, and maybe it will pull in you too. The beta is only available until the end of the day of the 11th. The full game comes out early, I think on like the 13th or something like that, but the full release is on like the next Thursday or something like that. I think it's like the 18th or something. I don't remember exactly when it is, but that doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm not going to spend $100 for the early access version of the game. Obviously, that's way too much money. Like 3 days early access, whoop-de-doo. I've said it before and I'll say it again. That practice is bullshit. They did it for Battlefields back in the day. EA did that for Battlefield games. Ubisoft has done it for Assassin's Creed games, and now the Skull and Bones game. Like, why do we need the early access period? It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to support that, and I don't think people should support that in general. The only reason why they have the 3-day early access is because it worked before in the past, so they're doing it again. And the annoying thing too is if you're in the beta and you want to purchase the game, if you do the buy the game option, it takes you to the premium version and only the premium version. So don't get sucked into that. Anyway, I was playing the game, and I was having a pretty good time, and I started around 4 o'clock-ish on Friday. And, I was like, okay, I'm going to play like an hour of this, maybe. We'll see how we do. Fast forward, it's now 7 o'clock. I've been playing for about 3 hours, and I'm not getting bored, and I'm like having the time of my life, and I finally reached the stopgap for the leveling you can do, and the camp and the story stuff is like, hey, you gotta get the this. Thanks for playing the beta. You've done everything you can with the story, and I was like, wow, that flew by, and I was having so much fun just going around and plundering ships. And really, I mean, I really wasn't going after like story mission stuff either. Like I was just kind of doing it if I was in the area, and it really was like it was actually really fun. I was having a lot of fun with it. I mean, the time was flying by. Like, I was going around the first part of the game is pretty much this like big island in the middle, and there's like a bunch of little arpeggios off to the side, and you can definitely tell that this game was made with the player like in mind. Like there's plenty of ships to take down. There's plenty of trade routes to plunder. There's lots of good resources on these ships. There's lots of villages you can plunder and stuff. And the first part of the game is very much like this kind of African safari kind of, maybe not safari, but jungle kind of vibe to it. Each area you go to is kind of like jungle, lush jungle. Obviously, as you go deeper into the game, there's more stuff that will reveal itself. I believe they've shown off like a Asian area, and there's like a desert area and stuff like that. So there's more areas to explore. I personally was going through like a marshy area by the time that I was kind of finishing up my play time with the game, which had like alligators swimming around. If you have that Dow, you can hunt the alligators and sharks and stuff. But if you're in your big ship, it's not like Assassin's Creed where you can pull over and hunt the great white sharks and the whales and stuff. Which is unfortunate. I felt like the game really kind of needed that, like I like, why do I have to switch out my ship into the Dow and then sail to that spot in the Dow? Like, can't I just, drop a boat in the water and do my thing? Maybe maybe you get that with a ship later on. I don't know, but that does seem a little bit annoying to me, especially early on with the game. But I really thought that the progression was ranking up pretty nicely. You start as like a commoner, and you can get to like, a swashbuckler or whatever in the beta, and the leveling up seemed pretty natural. I was just kind of going around doing my thing, getting plunder. I was worried that they were gonna really nickel and dime you to get money. Like I felt like the money aspect of the game, I earned like 10,000 coins within like my first hour, and I was able to buy most blueprints that I found and stuff like that. So like the progression isn't even locked behind super expensive things, and you can earn money really fast by just plundering these ships and selling the items to the shop. It's actually quite a nice loot gameplay loop in my opinion. And I was really having a fun time like customizing my ship as well. Like that first ship you get, I was customizing it pretty nicely. I got like this red and black banner or sail to it, with like the Grim Reaper on the side of it, and my ship itself had like this gold trimming to it, and it was also like a red and black style. And then on the back, it had the name of my ship, and I was essentially just using regular cannons at that point, but there already were some things you could start to test out that were a little bit more wacky, I guess. And that's the one thing about the game that I originally was like, oh, this is kind of weird. Why are they putting this stuff in there? It's because it's a live service game and blah, 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 blah. But like the cool stuff in the game is like you get like flamethrowers, and you can put them on the front of your ship and like burn ships in front of you. It's actually kind of cool. It's actually really fun. There's also these torpedoes that you can use, where you shoot at the torpedo, and if you hit a ship at long range, it does more damage, which is cool. I love that idea. It also there's also like a bleeding mechanic in this game where if you ram into a ship, you can actually cause flooding, which is kind of like bleeding. So like the flooding will happen, and it will continuously damage the ship over time. Same thing with torpedoes. If you hit them from far away, it'll do some flooding damage as well, which is really cool. I like that idea. Sue me. I like the ideas that this game has. Do I wish that the game was a bit more fleshed out with on-foot combat and stuff like that? Sure, of course. But as it stands right now, the game was fun enough, and I had a good time, that I said, you know what, I'm willing to fork over some cash for this. I'm willing to fork over like $70 for this. And what do you know? Later on Saturday, the next day, I was playing for more time. I was playing for a longer time. I was playing for like 3 or 4 hours, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm sold on this. And I ended up pre-ordering the game from Best Buy. And yeah, I'm about as surprised as anyone else. I went into this expecting like, oh, I'm gonna hate this. Oh, I'm not gonna like this. But they really grabbed me, or it really grabbed me. And I was having a great time with it. Like, I was just having a generally good time. I was playing the game without feeling like any monotony setting in. I was just having fun sailing around. Sure, sometimes going from one point of the map to the other point of the map is a bit of a slow process, but they put stuff in between those sections to give you something to do. Like you can just take down any ship you want. You can just sail the open seas and just take out ships on your way down there, or you can plunder a village on your way, or you can stop at this deserted island and trade with the person there, or get a mission from the person there. It just really was speaking to me. It was really They really did a decent job with all that. And the open world definitely feels like it was designed for a single player adventure. I'm not gonna lie. It's almost like they took the template of Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Rogue's map and just lifted that and put it into here and was like, okay, and now we make all the single player content, right? And then, Ubisoft came and was like, live service game, right? Honestly, I had a lot of fun teaming up with other people in the world and doing the plunders and just taking out ships as well. Like that's another thing it's really easy to like team up with someone. You don't even need to like have them as a friend or anything like that. They're just sailing around the open seas. You're sailing around the open seas. You can call for help if you want to. You can send off fireworks to let them know that you're having a good time. I don't know. And like so I was about to plunder an area, a village, and it was a little bit more difficult for the ship that I had. And I was I wasn't like struggling, but another person came by, they joined the plunder, and boom, we knocked it out really quick. And we didn't have to exchange friend codes. We didn't have to add each other as a friend. So I just set off my firework emote, and he set off his firework emote after it was all said and done, and we left. And I had a great time. It was just one of those things. It's like I think this might be the first live service game since like Destiny 1 that I might be investing a lot of time into, and it's kind of scary because I haven't wanted to do that in quite some time. Like live service games have kind of been a bit of a wash for me, and I've bought them and I've just played like a couple hours and said, okay, that's enough. But I really do feel like Skull and Bones, out of all the live service games to come out so far this year, and even ones that are going to be coming out sooner rather than later, I feel like this one's a pretty strong contender. I feel like this one is, as of right now, from my impressions of the beta, the one that is going to speak to me personally. Now, it's not going to speak to everyone. I can guarantee you that. I know that there's a lot of people who have negative feelings and thoughts about the game from the beta, and hey, that's fine. That's your prerogative. Don't let me stop you from hating the game, right? But for me personally, I was expecting this to not sell me on the game. I was expecting this to be like, okay, I played an hour and now I'm bored. But I played for about 6 or 7 hours over this weekend, and I'm sold. I'm actually sold on the game, and I think that it's going to be a pretty fun time. And I know that I might be in like. I honestly might be in like the major minority here. I don't know. I haven't really looked at what other people are saying, because all that really matters to me is my own opinion, obviously. But I do feel like I might be in the minority on this one, and I don't know exactly why because I haven't looked it up. But I could probably see people complaining about on foot combat. You can't like board a ship and fight the enemies on the ship. It's all from your ship. It's just an animation when you board a ship. So I can see people not liking that aspect of the game, where it's like they could have done so much more with it, especially for it is a $70 launch game. And I do feel like, yeah, maybe it could be more like 60 or 50 for that matter. And I'm sure it'll be on sale in the coming months after that, sure. So that's the thing, though. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that I had enough fun. I was sold on the game to fork over the money for it, and I will be playing it on day one. And I was not expecting that, but hey, there's a couple things that I wasn't expecting this weekend. This is just the tip of the iceberg at this point. But Skull and Bones, the beta. Really fun time. I really enjoyed my time with it. I think I'll be pleasantly surprised with the rest of the game as well. The story was pretty good so far. The mission structure, like, not crazy, but like, still relatively fun. And there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do, obviously, which I would have liked to have done, but as of this point, I thought that, hey, they did a great job. I was enjoying my time with what I had, and I maxed out everything I could at the end of, before the beta said, okay, thank you. I can still free roam around the map. Like, it's not like I'm refined to the area. Like, you could literally sail from one edge of the map to the other, probably in the beta. I'm not sure exactly though, but I'm pretty sure you could, because it didn't stop me from going and attacking level 10 ships and dying pretty quickly. But I got pretty far in the world, and I was like, oh, maybe I should turn around, maybe whatever. I guess the other thing that's kind of like, okay, is like the fast travel system only works when you're in ports with people. So if you're like in the middle of nowhere and you want to do something else, like you do have to sail the entire way there, which is like, okay, of course, like it's a ship game. You're not gonna be able to fast travel from anywhere automatically, right? Which I don't mind. That definitely harkens back to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where you could only fast travel from inside ports as well, which was fine. So that being said, if you want to try it out, you still have some time if you're listening to this on Sunday. But of course, that's coming to an end. I do hope that they at least put like a game trial or something like that, like a play like the first couple hours kind of thing, like maybe not a demo, but just like a game trial where it's like you get access to everything and you can try it out. I think that'll be a good thing, because I think that'll I mean, for me, it sold me on the game, so why wouldn't it sell someone else on the game? I think that yeah, I just think that I had a good time with it, so maybe someone else might if they get a trial of the game or a demo of the game, right? And like I said before, I'm probably in the minority here. I understand that. I do hope that when the game launches, it has a healthy launch and it's not buggered. But the beta ran really well. Like I didn't crash once. I didn't have any frame rate issues. I didn't have any issues with like toxic players or anything like that. Like you can't. Here's another thing: you can't do PvP unless it's an event. So like if you go to that event and you register for the PvP, then you can do PvP. But other than that, it's pretty much a cooperative looter ship game. So that was also nice, because early on there was a guy like trying to take me down. I was in my dhow and he was in like a ship, and I was like, oh, thank God that you can't do that, because that would have been like really frustrating. I think that would have been terrible. Those moments in Sea of Thieves where like you have a bunch of loot on your ship and you're just trying to get back to port, and someone like is camping at the port with their team of players, and they take you down. That's not going to happen in this game unless you do the PvP stuff. Which is nice. And I think that, and in general, Sea of Thieves probably does the pirate stuff better, the cooperative pirate stuff better. But the nice thing is, like, I don't need, like, a group of people to help man the ship anymore. I don't need to worry about people looting me and taking me down as I'm going through this. You can literally play this like a single-player game if you want to. The only thing that might happen sometimes is you have an objective to pillage a village, and someone did it before you, so you have to wait, like, 5 or 10 minutes for it to come back together. But other than that, I had a great smooth experience with the game so far, and I really was enjoying my time. I really was. I did run into one little thing, which is probably going to be fixed hopefully by the time the game comes out, or maybe a little bit after, but it wasn't anything major. Sometimes when I pulled up my map and I closed it really fast, the graphics would like become really textured. Like they would become really basic, so like the trees would turn into like flat trees, and the ground around me was like unfinished, but it was quickly load and render, so it's not like it was terrible. But I think it's just I think that's a problem with pulling up the map and then closing it really quickly. I think the game kind of unloads some stuff to lessen the burden of the servers, I guess. I don't know. But I did run into that every so often when I quickly opened it up and put it down. I would notice like, oh, this is weird, and then it would go back to normal almost right away. So that's the one thing that I kind of noticed. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's a little bit weird, but it's nothing too serious, honestly. It never really messed up my game or anything like that, but it was just one of those things that it kind of took you out a little bit, I was really getting into character. I also dressed up my character really well too. I thought that I'm a pretty good looking pirate out there. You know what I'm saying? Like I got the boots and all that stuff. Like, and once again, it wasn't like I had to grind for hours to get these items. Like I literally. The first thing that I bought in the game was a new hat. It was 400 coins, and I had already acquired like 4,000 coins from my exploits. I was like, thank you. I can actually dress my pirate in the way that I want to from the get-go instead of having to grind for stuff or buy stuff, right? No, I just sunk some ships, got their money, sold some goods, boom bada bing. I was able to get my look exactly the way I wanted to for the first part of the game, and I'm very satisfied with that. So Skull and Bones beta, it's only available for a limited time. The rest of Sunday, by the time you're listening to this, it's probably going to be over. So yeah, if they do come out with a game trial, though, definitely try that out. Or if you want to take my recommendation, you can. I'm just saying, not everyone's like me. And maybe that means that I don't know. I don't know what that means. I just know that I had a good time with it, and maybe you will too. All right. I also played Helldivers 2 this past week, and Helldivers 2 came out at the worst time possible for me because Skull and Bones was the only thing on my mind, and when I played Helldivers 2, I was like, what the fuck am I playing here? Now, that's not to say, like, if I wasn't playing Skull and Bones that I, would be having a better time with Helldivers, but the live service aspect of both games kind of clash with each other. Whereas Skull and Bones, I was having a lot of fun, teaming up with other people and blah, 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 doing my thing. Helldivers 2, I really did not have fun playing the game with friends or, in random lobbies or even by myself. I thought that it was pretty much just a slog to get through. It was overly difficult for some reason, even on the easier settings. And maybe it's just because I'm bad at the game. I don't know. I think the game is, in general, just really not it right now. The game is practically broken. They already put out a patch on the Steam version of the game, but the PS5 version of the game is definitely in rough shape. The game crashed a couple times for me, for Greedy, even for Coco, and we just were not having a great time. Like, there were spurts of when the game was working well, like we were having some fun. But it would quickly devolve into, okay, here's 5 big enemies for you guys to take down. Good luck. And they can one hit kill you. And it was just one of those things that it just really was getting on my nerves pretty quickly. So the game starts off with this really great sequence, this really nice cutscene, and you do the training mission. It's got all this personality and this charm to it. But when you get to the actual game, it's really just not any of that. the whole bombastic nature and the whole vibe of the game changes completely once you start playing the actual game. It just turns into a third-person shooter that's poorly optimized, doesn't run very well, and does not have good game mechanics in it. The shooting is fine, and the whole there's the system of you can bring down orbital strikes and weapons and reinforcements and ammo and stuff by doing these motions on the D-pad. That's kind of fun. But other than that, the other aspects of the game just aren't really good. There needed to be a dedicated dodge system in the game. Instead, they just have this dive to prone option, which, yeah, sure, allows you to dodge one attack, but it leaves you way open when you're on the ground and you're trying to get back up and start running again. It just doesn't work at all. You get caught and then you get killed. It pretty much almost right away. Especially if there's one of those big enemies that can kill you in one hit. That is just really what you dodge one of their attacks and you're expecting, okay, they're gonna give me a chance to get up, right, and then start to run away again. Wrong. It just immediately starts attacking you again, which is okay, sure. If it was an actual alien creature, it would press the attack when I'm on the ground, obviously. But this is not a real alien creature. It is a game. It's a video game. And I feel if you're going to make a video game, you need to put the video game stuff in there where it's okay, the monster did its big attack. Now it can't do that big attack for another couple seconds while I can try and scramble and get away. Wrong. I got hit by the fucking vomit attack twice in a row because of that shit. The other thing that can happen is your limbs can get damaged in the game, your chest, your head, your arms, your legs, and that will hamper your ability to run and stuff, and you won't be able to do any of that until you heal yourself, essentially. And that would happen so often where I dive and dodge, and an enemy will hit my leg, and now I can't run as fast, so I just get pummeled by the horde of enemies that are around me. It's just kind of crazy. I don't know if they just didn't understand how people are going to play the game or what, but as soon as the enemies get close to you, it's almost like an immediate game over. And once again, this could be a skill issue, obviously, but I think it really is a game design issue here, because as soon as enemies get close, one, you don't have a good melee attack. Two, you don't have a good dodge. And three, your gun has the shortest clip imaginable. Even like the heavy machine gun that has like 50 rounds in it, it's like it's not enough to take out the hordes of enemies that they throw at you in this game. Even if I had the best defenses ever, like a turret or a rocket launcher or whatever, these enemies would still get through and get to me, and I would still have to fight close quarters combat with them. Even we were playing with at one point we were playing with three other people, or I was playing with three other people, and it just felt like we can't get this done. Like, we're dying left and right. And yeah, they give you like 8 reinforcements, and they give you an extra one every 30 seconds if you deplete them all. It just still was not enough, and like the guns weren't damaging enough. And yeah, sure, maybe we should have gone to baby mode on the game, the novice setting or the easy setting. But I was like, usually medium is the setting that the developers want you to play at. Like, that's the average gaming experience. That should not be as difficult as it is. Like, we also tried playing on hard mode, which was a big mistake. With how early we were in the game, but the game kind of just like changed us to hard mode without me noticing. Like, the main objective was like beat an easy mode. Okay, we did that. Now we can play medium, and then we beat a medium. It's like, okay, now you can play hard mode. It's like, well, why automatically switch me to hard mode when I only have 2 people in my squad, or 1 other person in my squad, or just me? It doesn't, and the balancing in the game is also pretty abysmal as well. One person, if you're just a solo player in the game, there's still enough enemies for a 4-player team to fight. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. The balancing is off, the gameplay is off, the vibe is off. I don't know what to say other than Helldivers 2 was a big disappointment for me. Disappointing enough that I returned the game. Now, I did have to jump through some hoops to return the game. But I eventually was able to get in-store credit for it, and I was happy to do that, because I was just so distraught over the game. And this year I'm trying. I said at the beginning of the year, I'm trying to beat more of my backlog. I'm trying not to buy as many new games this year. I'm only trying to buy the ones that really are speaking to me, ones that really look good, that I want to play, right? So, maybe that's going to hurt the podcast a little bit in the long run, but for the most part, I'm going to get the big ones, and I'm going to play them and see how I like them. And unfortunately, Helldivers 2 just was not there. It was buggy. It was a mess. It didn't feel good. It just didn't play well. And for all those reasons and more, I just decided, you know what, I'm taking this back, and I'm getting my money back, because I'm going to put this towards a game that I'm actually going to want to play. I'm actually going to like, So, yeah, and on the topic of like the crashes and stuff like that, like, yeah, the game crashed for me like twice. Also, there was like this bug that would happen, like if a player joined mid mission or whatever, like the game would just be super, like the frame rate would be like 5 FPS, and it wouldn't fix itself. You had to restart the game. Greedy Waffles had that happen to him many different times. There was also we had trouble connecting to each other. And like, I was on an Ethernet connection. Coco's internet's good. Gree's internet is good. So it's like, why can't we connect to each other? It's just the game wouldn't let us until we all restarted our game, and boom, bada bing, now we can magically all just join each other for no reason. It was just so weird. And then on top of that, like the game, it just was not working that well in general, and it's just one of those things like, wow, this is annoying. This is super annoying. The other thing that was very annoying was the limited selection of guns and stuff at the beginning of the game. Like, you only have an assault rifle or a shotgun, or you only have a grenade, or you only have these specific things you can call in. And in order to get better stuff, like, yeah, sure, you have to level up, but some of the stuff you had to get for like the new orbital stuff was just ridiculous. Like, there's these little research things that pop up every so often. You gotta pick them up. You get like 8 per pickup, and some of the prices for the upgrades were like 80 research tokens, and it's like, what the fuck? I have to play like 15 matches to get that, you know? And if you die, you drop all the resources that you gather, and if someone else picks them up, or no, I'm sorry, if someone else does pick them up, you do get them. But like, let's say that you know that's the last life, or let's say that it's right before the drop off of the mission, so now it's like, okay, we just lost all those resource tokens. It's so annoying. It could take 20 missions or more to get 80 of those things, even if you scour the lands. It's so annoying. And it's like, on top of it, it's like, yeah, I think that the level, like the area that you explore is good. I think the stuff that they populate the area with is good. Like, there's little side things you can do all over the place. But in the end, when the main objective comes around and you just get destroyed and you lose everything, it's just like, why did I spend 20 minutes doing all this other stuff when I just died during the main objective? And that was with two other people. I was playing with Greedy and Coco, and like, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's frustrating to lose all of that because of the game's balancing issues. I just couldn't take anymore. And I know that they were also feeling the same way. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, damn, this is rough. This was not ready for launch, obviously, and this is not what I expect from a PlayStation funded studio. This is not what I expect from the PlayStation brand. Like, this is the worst condition that a game could launch in for PlayStation right now. And I was really, I mean, me and a lot of other people were really hyped for this game. I loved the original Helldivers. I thought that game was a decent top-down shooter kind of game, multiplayer shooter. They did a great job with that. And I was really excited for the new branding of this, the new reawakening, the new version of this, and it just did not hit at all from the get-go, which was just so disappointing. So disappointing. So you won't be hearing about Helldivers from me again after this. I sold the game. I mean, I returned the game, so I'm not going to be playing it anymore. In general, even if the game was working, I was not having a good enough time to spend more than a couple hours in it anyway. So that's the main thing right there. Now there are some patches coming for the game. They already put out a patch on PC, but they're still working on the one for PlayStation. So we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, and once again, like, just like with Skull and Bones, like, maybe I'm in the minority here. Maybe we were in the minority here. Maybe other people were having a much better time with the game or a much easier time with the game. Who knows? But in the end, it is personal opinion that I go with 100% of the time. And in my personal opinion, Helldivers 2 is not worth the $40 price tag. So take that with what you will. Hopefully they'll do like a game trial or a demo in the near future. But now it's kind of interesting that they didn't really show much about the game leading up to its launch, which maybe that's why. Maybe because the game just, I don't know, maybe it just wasn't in a great state for launch. And it obviously wasn't in a great state for launch because of how it is right now, but what are you going to do? All right, also, I played and completed Celeste 64, which I kind of talked about a little bit last week. I read a quote from Callus about the game, and I didn't really enjoy it. I thought Celeste 64, like, it was made in like 2 weeks, and it definitely needed like another week in the oven. Like, I understand it was like a game jam situation or whatever, but like, yeah, it definitely needed touched up. I felt like the controls just were not great. I felt like the physics in the game were just kind of wonky. I liked the idea of like this third-person platformer inspired by the 64 era, but it just didn't really all come together and gel for me personally, which is unfortunate because I love the original Celeste game, but my main takeaway was in Celeste, when I died, it felt like my fault, right? The game pushes you to your limit, but the game works. In Celeste 64, I really felt like a lot of my deaths, like 90% of my deaths, were the game's fault. Like, the physics weren't working correctly, or the jump I did just wasn't far enough for no reason whatsoever, and then the next time you do it, it was fine. Like, there's just random things like that would happen, and that's kind of where I was at. And even though I did do the 100%, I got all, like, 30 of the strawberries, and I had a relatively okay time doing that. I just really felt like this needed some more time. It really, really did. And the other thing that I was really annoyed with was the music during the bonus levels, the cassette levels, was so annoying. And I spent most of my time in those levels because those are like that's the challenging part of the game, is doing these cassette levels for the most part. And I was like, oh my god, please stop playing the music. Like the music was just so irritating. It was one of those things that I was like, I'm on the edge of like just turning off the game right now because of the music alone. And the level design like was interesting, sure, and frustrating at times. So like that kind of, the frustrating bits on top of the annoying music really was the knife in the back for me. I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5, which I know is maybe a bit I don't know, maybe that's a bit too critical. But personally, that's what I came up with because in the end, I really wasn't having a great time with it. I think that it's a good idea, and they should have. I mean, I'm glad that they released it for free and all that, you know. But Celeste 64 Fragments of the Mountain just really wasn't it for me, and I just was not. I was just not really having fun in the end, and gathering all the strawberries just was tedious at times, and like I said, the physics just didn't feel great, and the controls just didn't feel great at times. So that is that. Let's talk about some games that I beat from my backlog this week. Ooh, boy, we got a couple here. First one is Dodo Peak. This is a game that I played at PAX back in like 2021 or something like that. A retro fellow, or Squid Daddy now that he's called, we played this game on a DDR mat, and we did like this little contest, and we both won. I think I got like second place, he got first place, so he got like a T-shirt and a copy of the game. I got a copy of the game, and whoever was in third place got whatever. And it was a relatively fun time. So essentially, the game is like you start at the top of like a mountain, and then it's kind of like Crossy Road, where you can only move one step, one block at a time, one space at a time. And there's like traps and boulders and enemies kind of around, and you got to go through this level. Like it's a little bit of a puzzle, and you need to collect your dodos, your little baby dodos, and as the mama dodo. So you get there's a few power ups here and there, like invincibility and stuff like that, or something that makes you go faster. And the levels, they started off relatively easy, I would say, obviously, because they are the early levels. And they did get kind of challenging towards the end. And it was still a lot of fun. Like, I had a lot of fun playing through this game. There's like 50 levels in total, and varying amounts of challenge to them. And I thought that it was, in general, a pretty fun game. I eventually, just kind of finished it up in like an evening. So it's not like it was like super long game. But in general, out of all the puzzle games that I played this year, this one definitely has been a standout in general. It's still not like amazing. Like I feel like the movement in the game isn't my favorite thing ever, but it's competent. It works pretty well. I enjoyed my time with it. The graphics are nice and whimsical. The level design is pretty good for the most part. The one thing that I kind of have a criticism with is the grinding in the game. In order to get like the better outfits that make you go faster in general, it takes tons and tons and tons of coins. And unless you buy the coins, it's going to take you a lot of work. And it's set up like a mobile game. Obviously, it's on mobile and on like Epic Game Store and Steam. So it's like one of those things. It's like, yeah, I understand why you have like this egregious amount of grinding for these skins, but also like, why are we doing this? So in the end, Dodo Peak, kind of fun. I mean, I would recommend it. But it's like a 3.5 out of 5. They definitely could have done a little bit better with that kind of stuff in there. But other than that, it was a good time. I enjoyed it, and I think you might too. You might even have it on Epic Game Store. It was free for like a week or something like that during like like the summer event or something a few years ago. So, maybe you have it for free. Maybe try it out. The other game I finished was Power Wash Simulator. And we've been playing this one since last year. We've only been playing it on the weekends, which probably wasn't the best idea. It definitely made for a slower playthrough. But, I think the main source of my criticism for this game is what I always felt about this game, which was there are just some levels that are just so boring to do. The big house, the subway station. There's some levels that just really irked me because of how boring they were. The subway was literally just a copy paste job, mirror version on the other side. It took forever to do, and it just was not fun to do. But for every level that's not fun or just kind of boring, there was like a good level in there, like the backyard level. There's a couple like cleaning the vehicle levels that were kind of fun, like the fishing boat and the SUV, I guess, and the golf cart. There were some bigger levels that were fun, like cleaning the big statue or cleaning the eggs off of the mayor's house. That was just like a fun little different thing to do. The final level was actually really good too. Like I actually had a good time cleaning the final level, which is kind of surprising, seeing as it's like the biggest level in the game. But it was fun because there was so much variation, so much variety to it. And I really had like a mixed time with it. It's one of those games that like I understand, like I enjoyed some of my time with it, but not all my time with it, and I can see why people really like this game, of course. And there were moments that I really, but would I play through this game again? No. Would I want to play through this game? Probably not. Would I want to do the bonus levels? I mean, we started doing a couple. There were some that were fun, others that were really tedious, like the gnome fountain, that I just felt like, yeah, this is a waste of time, right? Because it was just another copy and paste job, around the whole thing. And and the challenges were actually, the challenges were kind of fun. They were actually challenging, like using a limited amount of water or cleaning something in a limited amount of time. Like those were kind of fun, but they weren't things that I would do again, right? Like once I did enough to get the trophies for it, I was like, okay, that's enough of that. The game still doesn't have the patch to fix the final trophy in the game, so I don't have the platinum yet, but I did do all the requirements for the 100%. I just gotta wait for that patch, and it will auto pop once they update the game, so I'll keep an eye out on that. But as of right now, the game was like a C tier, maybe a B tier, honestly. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And in general, like playing with a friend, obviously, is going to be better than playing by yourself for the most part. But in the end, I just wasn't like super jazzed about it. And I've never really been super jazzed about Power Wash Simulator. I mean, the only reason I was playing it was because I kind of wanted to play a more chill, relaxed game. And, that's what we got. We got a more chill and relaxed game. And maybe that wasn't the best idea for me personally, but whatever. I also didn't like that there was no music in the game whatsoever, except for like the final credits, which was really weird. I was pumping my own music throughout the entire playthrough, so that's crazy. All right, I also played a game called Drums Rock, which I talked about during the launch of the PSVR 2, and I finally got around to finishing this one. This is my first PSVR 2 game of the year being done, which is nice. I've as I said before, one of my main goals for this year was to beat more VR games that I have bought in the past, and we did just that. So it's a relatively good game. It's one of those things that's like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, this is like drums and Rock Band," and I mean, I guess it's kind of like drums and a Rock Band VR, I suppose. The problem though is that there's no hi-hat. There's only 2 cymbals, 4 toms. And obviously, they're not all toms. The yellow one is a snare drum, the red is a bass, the orange and purple are the toms. And then the cymbals are both, well, one of them is a crash cymbal, which is the blue one, and the green one is a ride cymbal. But the game sorely, sorely needed a hi-hat. Why, you might ask? Well, let me just tell you, playing hi-hat parts on a ride cymbal is very tiring with how this game is set up. The cymbal is far enough back that you need to kind of extend your arm all the way to get to it. And usually when you're playing like regular drums, like ride cymbal is a little bit closer to you. Your elbows your elbow is bent and it's kind of closer to you. And I'm kind of doing the motion right now. You can't see it, but look at any drum setup. The ride cymbal is not going to be where a crash cymbal is, because when you're using the ride cymbal, it's a rhythmic part of the drum set. It forms the beat for the drum set, and you need to hit that a lot to keep the time signature, right? Putting that where the crash cymbal would not be good, because now you're using more energy to hit the ride cymbal, and your arm is not moving as much, so you can tire it out pretty fast. The crash cymbal, there's obviously songs that use a lot of crash cymbal, but usually it's in short bursts or just to give a little spice to the song, right? Putting the ride cymbal where a crash cymbal would be is just not great for your arm in general, like your arm stamina in general. And I really started to feel this when I was playing some of the DLC songs. Like they have My Own Worst Enemy by Lit. They have Shine by Collective Soul. They have all these songs that do a lot of hi-hat work, and they put all the hi-hat work on the green ride cymbal. And my arm felt like putty after playing 3 songs in a row. And I was like, and I had been playing the game for a couple days at that point, so my arms, like, they never felt like this for any of the other parts of the game, but using that cymbal so much really like ruined my arm for the rest of the day. And like I said, like the other songs in the game don't do that because they're designed for this setup. But because those licensed songs had so much hi-hat, they were like, oh, we got to put it on a cymbal because it's a cymbal being played, a hi-hat cymbal. So I think that if they had put a cymbal in the game, that would have been a lot better. A hi-hat in the game, that would have been a lot better, especially for like playing the drums in general. I understand, like, maybe because you have the remotes on your hands, maybe it wasn't like an opportune thing for you to be playing a hi-hat and whatever. But there's other games that have, there's other VR games that do this, that have a drum set fully fleshed out, and that people don't have a problem with those. I don't know. Maybe it's because this is a bit more of an arcadey kind of drum game. It's not trying to be realistic 100% of the time, that they thought they could get away with it, but it really, really needed that hi-hat, because there are some times where there's a lot of hi-hat going on, and I'm just using that green cymbal, and it's just one of those things that, like, you can feel your arm starting to like fall off because you're holding it in the same position and whatever for so long. The campaign mode in the game was pretty good. I think that some of the tracks repeated way too often, like I Love Rock and Roll and Bring Me to Life were just overused constantly in the first 2 acts. And then the final act, they also reused a couple songs as well inside the same act, and it was just like, what are we doing here? But there were also some fun stuff in there as well. I think there's a good variety of songs in the game. It's just for some reason they decide to use the same ones over and over again. Because if you look at the track list of the game, it's got a pretty decently sized track list, but the number of songs that you play in the game, it's like, for some reason you're playing like the same song like 4 times in one segment. It's like, what are we doing here? Also, I found it really weird that they locked a couple songs behind buying them for like no reason at all. Like there's an Ailstorm song called Drink in the game, which I really like that song. You have to buy it in the bonus menu. It wasn't in the main set list, which is it's just kind of weird. It's just kind of weird to me. The licensed songs in the game, besides from the Ailstorm song, are covers, and they do an okay job covering the songs, but it's not great in my opinion. And in all honesty, like, they did a decent job doing like tracks inspired by bands as well. Like there's an Iron Maiden vibe song, there's a Dragon Force vibe song, and maybe even a Foo Fighters one in there as well. It's the overall vibe, like it's an inspired by kind of track, which I thought most of them were fine. There was a couple that were kind of annoying, but the Dragon Force inspired one was actually really, really good. I would totally listen to that. On the down low. But I forget the name of it right now, but it was a pretty fun song. And it's just, the main thing that I'm missing in this game is the hi-hat, and like that would really bring this all together. And I don't know how exactly they would do that, because essentially what you're doing on the track is you're killing demons as they come to you by hitting the drums at the right time. So I don't know how they would have implemented the hi-hat into that, because for what it's worth, they did a good job of like having the track be something that you could understand pretty easily. So maybe having the hi-hat in there would have mucked things up. I don't know. But as of right now, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was decent. I thought it was pretty good. If you have a PSVR and you like drumming, this might be a game that you want to check out. Last up on the list here is Bayonetta 2, which this was my first playthrough of the game on the Switch. So we are doing the Switch version, not the Wii U version. The nice thing is if you buy the Switch version of the game, it comes with a copy of the first game. I already had it on Steam, so I don't know. It's just fine. Which is nice, though, but it's a nice little extra in there. It's a digital code. You can buy... I think you can buy the original game separately. It might have been a limited release or something like that, but that's nice that you could buy the original game if you so desired. So, what did I think of the game? I thought the game was very enjoyable. It definitely took what the first game had, and it fleshed out a little bit, but not a lot. So it's not like a completely different experience. But they gave you some different weapons. They gave you some more torture attacks. They definitely upped the ante on like the designs of the characters, and they gave you hell spawns to fight instead of just holy enemies. So it definitely built on what the original game set up and what it was doing. And I thought this game also connected with the first game pretty well. The game kind of does some time jumping, and I thought that the time jumping it can be done well and it can be done horribly wrong. This one definitely did the time jumping stuff well. I thought that they really did a good job with going back in time and then going back to the future and setting up the events of the original game inside of Bayonetta 2. And I think they did a good job with that. I thought that it was good. The set pieces are really well done in the game. The boss fights were also pretty good. I liked a lot of the enemy configurations and stuff. I thought the flying enemies were a bit annoying. But what are you going to do? Not every single enemy is going to be your favorite to fight, right? I also thought that there was some pretty funny dialogue in there, some pretty funny sequences. As Callus mentioned on stream, it was like the first time a game in the Nintendo universe said the word fuck. It was kind of towards the end, so that's groundbreaking. Nintendo did buy Platinum Games and bought Bayonetta to have something a little bit more edgy on the system, I guess, to speak to the more adult audience of the Wii U. So I guess it all worked out in the end. The only other like kind of criticism I have is that the game was relatively short. I felt like the game kind of flew by and not in a good way. Like I was having a lot of fun, but also there was only like 15 chapters or 16 chapters to the game, and like a couple of those were just like really quick boss fights or whatever, and I didn't feel like the game had a lot of difficulty to it on the normal setting. I mean, I guess if I wanted more difficulty I could go to the higher difficulties, but I always play through my first time on a game on the recommended setting of normal or medium or whatever the mid is, because that's the one that the developers designed for people to play the game on. If you want a hard experience, that's not exactly it's one of those things like, okay, well, a hard experience is not the regular experience, right? You can play hard if you want to from the get-go, but I'm not gonna play a game like that. I felt like the game was just a little bit too easy. Maybe that's why it went by a bit too fast. And there you go. It did get some more challenging stuff at the end of it, but it felt like a difficulty spike rather than a gradual, gradual build up. But in the end, I thought that the game was great. I liked a lot of the fights in it. I thought the combat was fun. I thought the story was fun, and that's why I'm giving it like a 4.5 out of 5. It's probably going into the S tier. Okay. Now that we're past that segment, let's move on to what's in the news right now. Okay, so we got a little bit of Xbox news at the beginning here. The first one is that what's kind of been eating everyone this entire week. Essentially, Xbox has been a bit lofty on what their plans are for the future of the company. They just bought Activision Blizzard. They've gone through a ton of layoffs inside that organization. We'll talk about the more egregious ones in a minute here, because there has been an update on that. But the vision of the vision of the future of Xbox is kind of blurry at this moment. We don't know what Xbox is planning. I mean, last week I talked about how Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves were possibly coming to Sony and Switch in the near future. I'm sorry, PlayStation and Switch in the near future. Other games like Starfield, Indiana Jones, and the Gears of War series, along with Halo, were also like mentioned in some sort of document. And also Microsoft was buying dev kits for the PS5. They invested in them. So it's hard to say if Xbox is getting out of the console realm or if they're just putting their games on multiple platforms. It's hard to say. But there's been a lot of speculation going around. We really haven't gotten anything concrete yet. But Phil Spencer did come out on Twitter and say, "We're listening to you and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned." Now, a lot of people have kind of gone a little bit nutso with this. A lot of people have been like destroying their Xboxes because they believe that the Xbox is not going to be making consoles anymore and that they're betraying the Xbox brand by putting their games on other platforms. Oh, no. In all honesty, I think it's a good idea for Xbox to put their games on multiple platforms. I think that Xbox sales have been the lowest out of the big three for quite some time, ever since like the Xbox One era. Xbox has been trailing in a lot of ways. Once the Switch came around, that obviously knocked both of the competitors out of the park, but Xbox has consistently been third place in console sales for quite some time. Their games obviously don't sell as well. They have this Game Pass going on, which, a lot of people subscribe to Game Pass, but you're also losing revenue from not selling that, $60 game, that $70 game, a million times, right? You're just selling, you're selling a subscription of Game Pass for like $10 a million times, which is less money in general. But Xbox internally Phil Spencer said that they weren't planning on stopping console production. They just want to put out their games on multiple kinds of devices. So once again, it's kind of jumbled, kind of foggy right now. This is obviously an internal thing, so we don't know if it's 100% true or what people are leaving out, right? But as of this point, it seems pretty apparent that there's a couple of Xbox games, if not a majority of Xbox games, being ported onto other systems and being worked on for other systems at this point. So whether that means that Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation or not, it's hard to say. But as of right now, it seems likely. And you can kind of speculate all you want about it. I think that in general, a lot of Xbox people are going to be kind of annoyed because they've invested their money, their time into the Xbox brand. And now Xbox is like, well, Xbox isn't the only place to play Halo on now and Hi-Fi Rush and whatever. We've already seen that with Xbox putting Game Pass on PC, putting Sea of Thieves and Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush and Halo Master Chief Collection and stuff on Steam and on the Xbox Game Pass for PC. So we've seen that stuff happen. So it's not like it's a foreign thing to have Xbox games playable on a different platform. Obviously, Microsoft owns Windows PCs, so it's not like a huge jump for them. I've talked about this in the past before. It's not a huge jump to put Starfield on the PC because Microsoft owns both Xbox and Windows. So it's not like that big of a deal that they put the game on PC, But the big deal does come in when they start putting their games on Steam, on Epic Game Store, on PlayStation, on Switch, on Linux. I don't know, other platforms, and it'll be even bigger of a thing if they put Xbox Game Pass on in other places as well. Which actually leads me to the other thing that happened this past week, which was GameStop put out a tweet that had they call it a mistype or whatever, like just a grammatical error or something like that. But essentially, GameStop put out this tweet that said, "Join us 2/10 for Xbox Demo Day. Come to play the new Xbox games on Xbox Series X and S, plus explore the benefits of Microsoft Game Pass." And this just added a ton of fuel to the fire. Now, like I said before, GameStop said they made a typo, which is like, okay. Okay.
They ended up, I think, deleting the tweet or whatever. But in the end, though, it's like that's a big typo. Like that's not like putting in, like a typo would be spelling Xbox and accidentally like changing the B for a P or something like Xbox. Like that's a typo. Okay, having a full word be different is an oopsie. Like that's an oopsie. Like uh-oh. So people are speculating now more than ever that Xbox Game Pass is turning into Microsoft Game Pass because it's going to be on multiple systems with their games coming to multiple systems as well. And then the Xbox branding is going to be phased out. I don't think Xbox branding entirely is going to be phased out, obviously. And if Phil Spencer wasn't lying to the people inside the company, it seems like they will be working on more console iterations. But maybe they're going to be maybe they are going to go down the road of Sega, where they get out of the console market and they just make games. And I don't think that would be a bad thing per se, but it does kind of, I think it's been a long time coming. Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo have been fighting for so long. It just feels weird that one of them would just exit out of the ring. But I mean, the sales for the Xbox has been pretty low, so it's not like it's unprecedented. But again, it's like I would understand. I would understand, and I think people would come to understand later down the road. But anyway, let's move on. So there's been a lot of layoffs at Activision Blizzard, and it's one of those things that it's a bit concerning. The FTC, who allowed the Activision Blizzard buyout, said that they were having some issues with how many jobs are being laid off at the company. It's been recently reported that 1,900 jobs have been laid off in the video game division, including the newly acquired Activision unit, which contradicts the foregoing representations that Xbox made in court. Specifically, Microsoft reportedly has stated that the layoffs were part of an execution plan that would reduce areas of overlap between Microsoft and Activision, which is inconsistent with Microsoft's suggestion to the court that the two companies will operate independently post-merger. Moreover, the reported elimination of thousands of jobs undermines the FTC's ability to order effective relief should the pending administrative proceedings result in the determination that Microsoft's acquisition of Activision violated Section 7 of the Clayton Act. So what does that all mean? It essentially means that the FTC does not like that so many jobs were laid off. So many people were laid off at Activision Blizzard. Especially after Xbox said that this was part of an execution plan, and that Activision and Blizzard would kind of be working on its own side by side with Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has since responded, saying that consistent with broader trends in the gaming industry, Activision was already planning on eliminating a significant number of jobs while still operating as an independent company. The recent announcement thus cannot be attributed fully to the merger. More important, Microsoft continues fully to stand behind its representation in this court. So, essentially what Microsoft is saying is that, well, these things were already going to happen because of the greater video game landscape. They did not have, they didn't have full say over how many jobs were laid off, but essentially what the people who were laid off, the 1,900 people who were laid off, were already going to be laid off before Microsoft took over, which Callus did say in the Discord when we were talking about it the other day in Discord. So he's right on that point. But the other thing, too, is like, I mean, Microsoft did buy Activision Blizzard. They could stop the layoffs. They could also lessen the amount of layoffs the studios impacted. One of the studios that was most impacted was Toys for Bob. Now, contrary to what I thought, they did not completely shut down the studio Toys for Bob. They shut down a branch of the studio, and 86 employees lost their jobs in California. The Novato, California facility closed down. 86 people were laid off, and but the studio is remaining active, which means that the idea of putting the Toys for Bob back onto a game that they want to make, not just Warzone, is still out there. But it also really does kind of undermine the entire message that Xbox was saying before they bought Activision Blizzard, which is like, oh, we're going to bring back all these studios and we're going to make all these games and we're going to put these studios back into the place, back into the games that they were working on before Activision did like restructuring and stuff. And I think everyone was very happy about that. I was especially ecstatic because it's like, well, of course I want to see Guitar Hero and Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and stuff come back. Of course. But after all these layoffs, it's just like, wow, like they're either going to have to rebuild some of these studios, give some of these people back their jobs or hire new people in order to really get that Crash Bandicoot game that we want again. Like Crash 4 was amazing, simply put. Like it was just a great continuation of that original trilogy, and they axed out an entire legacy of content that was just subpar, right? You also look at the Spyro reimagining trilogy, and even though that is just a remake, it still showed that, like, hey, they can do this. Like, they're good at this. Like, the physics felt great, the jumping, the running, the flying, everything felt great. So it's really sad that so many people are losing their jobs, and so many people are being impacted by this, especially after Microsoft pledged to really fix the company, which is quite the opposite of what they're saying here with the FTC stuff, where they're like, oh, this wasn't our fault. This was the greater broad landscape of the video game landscape. Which, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of flip flopping, in my opinion. Like Microsoft has said. They've been on both sides of this, and it's just so weird. It's just so weird. So, and I mean, go back in the podcast episodes to when they were, they were talking to the FTC and they were giving their points and stuff like that. I was saying like, hey, fuck Xbox. What they're saying is, one, incorrect at times, and two, it's ingenuous, and it's like, wow, we maybe they shouldn't be buying Activision Blizzard. I was saying that kind of stuff, and then when it finally went through, it's like, okay, we'll have to see how this impacts the greater gaming landscape. But as of right now, it seems like a good thing. But as we've seen in the past couple months, like, yeah, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people lost work. It felt like more than just trimming the fat. But if it's true that Activision Blizzard were working independently and already had this in motion, I guess it's not as bad, but it's still bad. It's still a bad thing, obviously. And of course, as I've been talking about for weeks and weeks on end, we've had some more layoffs in the video game landscape. I've been trying to talk about each and every single one of these to really give you the impact of everything going on right now. But a lot of people from 2K Games and Take-Two in Austin, Texas were laid off. This happened back in September, but it's officially been reported on and announced recently. A few people in the visual concepts department and staff members in engineering were laid off. I believe about 30-something people were let go from the company. Visual Concepts was founded in 1988 as a subdivision of 2K. They worked on NBA 2K and recently Lego 2K Drive. And this really is starting to feel like a repetitive news story in the cycle of, in the cycle of video game news, where it seems like every week I'm talking about a new group of people who have been laid off from a big studio who is not, I mean, 2K is not suffering by any means. 2K makes tons of money on the NBA series. They made a bunch of money on the Borderlands series. Like, it's one of those things. I don't think that 2K is a yearning for cash right now. But obviously, the higher ups inside who own both of the studios are the ones making the decision. So what are you gonna do? All right, let's move on. The developers behind Subnautica. Recently, it was kind of leaked, I guess, or whatever, that they were working on a new game that was going to be kind of like a live service game. They were saying that it was, or maybe it's they were saying it's going to be an early access game, that they were going to support the game for a long time. So people were kind of worried about that. They also mentioned games as a service inside of this, which people took in the wrong way. I guess that's where the live service aspect kind of comes from. People don't want that. They don't want a live service game. So the developers of the game came out on a post on their website, unknownworlds.com/Subnautica, and they said that early access is not intended for release in 2024, but we plan to share more information later this year. In reference to the games as a service quote, we simply plan to continually update the game for many years to come, just like the previous 2 Subnautica games. Think our early access update model expanded, no season pass, no battle pass, no subscriptions. The game is not multiplayer focused. Co-op will be an entirely optional way to play. You'll be able to enjoy the game as single player if you want. As always, we are proud and incredibly grateful to have such a passionate and engaging community who loves Subnautica games so deeply. So it's nice that they came out, clarified some things. I think that it was definitely worth it for them to do that, kind of pseudo announce their next game, and while also quelling the fears of people who were reading into this. So it's nice that they did that. Subnautica has had consistently good games in the series. The original Subnautica is obviously a cult classic at this point. I enjoyed it a lot, but there was one point where I did a lot of exploring and I died, and then it reset me all the way back to like 2 days before that, and I just kind of was like, well, that's demoralizing. I forgot to save like several times, and there's no autosave feature in the game. So that was like the moment where I was like, okay, I regret everything, and I stopped playing the game. And then the Sub-Zero game, I think it was pretty well received. I think people were kind of not into the main character. Like, instead of it being them in the Subnautica realm, it was this character in the realm, and I think people it took them out of the game a little bit to actually have a voice to their character. I think that's the main criticism of that game. Other than that, I think that I thought that it was a pretty decent experience myself. So yeah, good luck to them in the making this next game, and we'll see when the early access period starts. All right, it's been reported and rumored that Assassin's Creed Red will be coming to the PS5 and other consoles in March of 2025. So they originally were calling this codename Red. Now it's just Red. So Assassin's Creed Red. This is the game that's going to be based in Japan. So they have confirmed that feudal Japan is the setting for it, and in a quarterly sales report, the publisher announced that the game was going to arrive by the end of March 2025. So that could mean that it's going to come late 2024 or early 2025. It seems like they're just going off of like quarterly sales reports, as I just said. In the same presentation, though, they also announced that Star Wars Outlaws will launch by the end of 2024, so that means that Assassin's Creed Red will probably be more towards the March 2025 release date, because they don't want those games to overlap, obviously. In a quote from the bigwig, the CEO, Yves Guillemot, he said, "Moving forward, we're gearing up for a very promising lineup for the fiscal year of 2025, including the upcoming release of Star Wars Outlaws in 2024, which should be a major milestone in the video game industry, especially given the undeniable appeal of this legendary franchise that will be coming for the first time to the open world territory, as well as Assassin's Creed codename Red, set in the long-awaited feudal Japan universe." Now, I don't think this is the first open world Star Wars game. I feel like KOTOR was open world, and there was also Star Wars Galaxies Online, so it's like, okay, it's not exactly the first open world, but it's a pretty fleshed out open world, I guess, from what we've seen, so whatever. But yeah, this also confirms that we will not be getting a new Assassin's Creed game in 2024, other than maybe like a side game that was announced. I think that Jade game, the phone game, might be coming out in 2024. I don't remember exactly, though. But anyway, seems like they got a nice lineup here for us. 2 games that are pretty. I guess hyped is the wrong word, but pretty. I'm pretty excited for Star Wars Outlaws. I think that'll be a pretty good game. And Assassin's Creed Red, I mean, you know me, I love the Assassin's Creed series, so we'll have to see more about it. But I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what they have to offer for feudal Japan, which has been asked for many, many years. All right, Dead Cells is officially wrapping up. There's been a lot of extra content post-launch with DLC and stuff like that. If you don't know, it's a side-scrolling roguelike action game that originally came from Motion Twin, but then post-content was given to Evil Empire. Now, I believe Evil Empire is just a developer underneath Motion Twin, or a side company that works with Motion Twin. But essentially, they said farewell to Dead Cells in a Twitter post here. After nearly 5 years of service, 4 DLCs, 18 updates, and some epic crossovers, and a mobile release, Evil Empire will no longer be working on Dead Cells. We are immensely proud of our work we have put into the game. We loved every minute and are thankful for Motion Twins for trusting us and letting us play with their baby for so long. We'll really miss working on Dead Cells, and in particular, we will miss the amazing community making new content for you, and seeing your reactions to some of our wilder editions have been a blast, even if we weren't always perfect. On that note, we're sorry for any broken controllers caused by Derelict Distillery. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm sure people who played the game know. The good news is that our Dead Cells team have been unleashed to pump their talent into our secret project, and will be revealing what their crazy minds have been coming up with very soon. Meanwhile, we, of course, wish the best for Motion Twin and Godspeed to their new game, Windblown. So this means that Evil Empire is working on their own game at this point. They're working on a new game. And Motion Twin is possibly wrapping up their work on Windblown, which is their new co-op roguelike game that was announced last year. So that's actually pretty exciting too, to kind of know, like, okay, Windblown must be in the final stages if they're stopping work on Dead Cells. And let's be honest, not a lot of games have the amount of quality that Dead Cells had over the years. Like 5 years of excellent DLC work, excellent updates. I mean, Dead Cells has been a staple of the roguelike community for quite some time. So, and even the vanilla version of Dead Cells is really good. I mean, it was like number 5 or number 6 on my top 10 games that year. So, that just goes to show like how long lasting the impact of Dead Cells has had. And it's sad to see it go, but I think that everything's got to be moved on from eventually, right? Destiny 2, right? Destiny 2 and Bungie. Disney has put a $1.5 billion, that's with a B, $billion stake into Epic Games. They plan an entertainment universe in Fortnite. So they put out a trailer called Disney X Epic Games on the Fortnite YouTube channel, where it just kind of showed the Disney properties that are either in Fortnite at this moment or coming to Fortnite. And they showed like this, I don't know if it's like a map or whatever. It kind of looked like a Disney map, honestly, with these different little biomes. So in the middle was like a big castle, like the Magic Kingdom castle. There was a Marvel and Lucasfilm world to the left. There's like a bunch of references here in on these islands. So you have like Big Hero 6, you have Nightmare Before Christmas, you have Wreck-It Ralph, and over here you have Avatar, and you have Inside Out, and over here you have Zootopia and Frozen and Mulan, and over here you have, I can't even tell what that is. It looks like a lemon. I'm not sure. And then there was also like a big Disney Plus sign in the background as well. So I'm wondering. There's also X-wings flying around along with some other ships as well. So it looks like they're going to be bringing a lot of Disney stuff to Fortnite in the near future. If you're a Fortnite player, it's probably something to be pretty excited for. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what exactly they have planned. But it seems like this might be like a new hub or a new world to explore. I don't know if it's going to be a battle royale thing, but maybe it's going to be like a virtual Disney visit. I don't know. This was announced during the House of Mouse fiscal 24 earnings call, where the Walt Disney Company CEO Robert Iger revealed the ambitious project. So let's see what he says here. Our exciting new relationship with Epic Games will bring together Disney's beloved brands and franchises with the hugely popular Fortnite in a transformational new game and entertainment universe. This marks Disney's biggest entry ever into the world of games and offers significant opportunities for growth and expansion. We can't wait for fans to experience the Disney stories and worlds they love in groundbreaking new ways. What about Kingdom Hearts? Well, I guess this is technically bigger than Kingdom Hearts. Tim Sweeney, who is the CEO and founder of Epic Games, welcomed the announcement, and he said this: "We're collaborating on something entirely new to build a persistent, open, and interoperable ecosystem that will bring together the Disney and Fortnite communities. There's no official release window or name or anything for the project yet, but they're saying that it's going to take a little while to build, but once it's done, it's going to be a huge project." So Epic Games is now valued at $31.5 billion. So the owners are Sweeney, who is the CEO. He owns 51% of the company. Tencent owns 40%. And PlayStation also owns about 5.4%. So with the new Disney buyout, Disney probably owns, with 1.5 billion, they probably own like a smaller stake than probably about the same amount as Sony. So we'll see what happens in the future. So there you go. Some people might be a little bit miffed about Disney having some stake in the video game universe. I don't know. It seems like they've been doing fine in the gaming landscape. They haven't really pushed anything too egregious, but we'll see what happens. EVO 2024, the big fighting game tournament show, I guess, announced what games were going to headline at the show. If you don't know, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was Nintendo wasn't allowing them to use that anymore. They said that they would love to have Super Smash Bros. Come back, but Nintendo was like, nah, for some reason. So here's the lineup for games. We have Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Guilty Gear Strive, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Under Night in Birth 2, Mortal Kombat 1, King of Fighters 15, and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which is the retro pick for EVO 2024. So it seems like it's going to be a pretty packed show. Tekken 8 has been getting some really good reviews. Haven't gotten it yet myself. I'm waiting for a sale on that one, unfortunately. And then, there you go. It's supposed to, this is supposed to start the 19th of July and last until the 21st of July. I'm sure there'll be plenty of videos and stuff about it coming out. It's going to be held at the Las Vegas Convention Center in Las Vegas, of course. So you can go to the official site and register for the tournament or buy tickets to the tournament right now if you want to. But there you go. Pretty exciting stuff there. All right, the Legend of Zelda Orchestra concert was on Friday, right? I believe. And they officially uploaded the entire concert onto their various YouTube channels. So if you want to check that out, it's on Nintendo of America, Nintendo UK, Nintendo of Japan. It was a very good show. I watched through most of it. I did skip around a little bit here and there. But it was really fun watching them play the music alongside the games that the songs are from. So, there was the Battle of the Goddess, which I believe is from Skyward Sword. Zelda's Lullaby, which is from Ocarina of Time, I believe. Don't quote me on this, though. I'm not the hugest Zelda fan. Link's Awakening had a melody done to it, so obviously that's from Link's Awakening. There was a Breath of the Wild song in there. Also, it looks like an older version, Legend of Zelda game. I think it's like Legend of Zelda 3 or whatever. Then there was also a Ocarina of Time village theme, along with the Legend of Zelda main theme at the end to wrap it all and close it all up. So lots of different eras of the game, from Tears of the Kingdom through Link's Awakening and stuff like that. So pretty cool, and definitely check that out if you want to tune into that. Looks like it was a pretty cool concert. So if you want to check that out, it's on Nintendo of America or any Nintendo YouTube channel right now. Speaking of music, Star Wars Jedi Survivor had its soundtrack nominated for a Grammy this past season, I guess. The 66th annual Grammys. They were on the 4th of February, so it was like about a week ago now. But the soundtrack for Video Games Award and other interactive media, Star Wars Jedi Survivor won the Grammy for its soundtrack, and I guess it was a a good soundtrack. I mean, it was pretty much just Star Wars. You know what you expect from Star Wars. But hey, it was good, I guess. Other games in the category were Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, Modern Warfare 3, Hogwarts Legacy, and God of War Ragnarok were all nominated for best soundtrack for the Grammys. Which Modern Warfare 3? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on. Whatever. Let's move on. Finally, for today, Spider-Man 2's update is coming on the 7th of March, which is adding New Game Plus, some new suits, and other highly requested features. Now, they did not go into specific detail on what exactly is coming other than the New Game Plus and some new suits, but people have speculated that they are going to be adding in some, like an option to replay missions, an option to change the time of day, an option to change your tendril color, but I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be adding to the game in the update other than the two things that I mentioned, new suits and New Game Plus. So we'll wait to hear more about that in the near future, but New Game Plus is a good place to start. I personally don't feel the need to replay the story right now, but maybe in the future I'll play through the story on New Game Plus and see how it goes. Maybe they might also be adding like an ultimate difficulty mode. I don't know if that's in the base game already, but that's been a staple of additions to the game, the past games as well. So we'll see. All right. Thanks for sticking with me through the long haul, folks. We are moving on to the final part of the show, which is what's coming soon. Okay, Rugrats Adventures in Gameland is officially coming in 2024, as we already know, but now we know that the game is going to be coming in March of 2024. It's going to be published by Limited Run Games. This was developed by The Mix Games and Wallride Studios. And it's coming to pretty much every single console and PC. If you don't know what this is, it's a 2D platformer inspired by NES-era side-scrollers and Game Boy games. You can play as Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil, either in co-op or solo mode. Each baby has their own unique ability. So as you explore the several levels, you can, try and do different things with each of the characters. Where's that screen that had all their stats? So Tommy has 3 jump and 2 lift. Chucky has 4 jump and 1 lift. Phil has 1 jump and 4 lift. And Lil has 2 jump and 3 lift. So each of them is kind of, relative. I mean, is what you expect, I guess, in a kid's game. But you can either play with the 8-bit graphics that are inspired by the NES era or the new HD visuals for the game. So you can switch between them at any time that you want. So yeah, I think this is. I mean, from what we've seen, it looks like a pretty fun platformer game. I think I'm going to be picking this up myself because I used to be. I used to be a big fan of Rugrats. I always loved watching that show when I was a kid, and the game will probably bring back some nostalgia for me, of course. But there you go. It's coming sometime in March. Lies of P and Wolong Fallen Dynasty are finally getting its crossover coming on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. In this crossover event, the new DLC you can get features 1 weapon and 2 outfit pieces. So there's the Azure Dragon Crescent Glaive, the Armor of the Honorable, and the Bandana of the Honorable costume DLC for Lies of P. I believe there might be some Lies of P stuff coming to Wolong in the future, but as of right now, it's just Wolong stuff coming to Lies of P. I think there's some more stuff in the works for it as well, but as of right now, that's what you're getting. Looks like it's a pretty nice DLC pack. I'm sure it'll be about like $5, $6, something like that. If it's a little bit more, maybe I don't know. Both these games are still currently on Xbox Game Pass, so if you want to try either of them out, there you go. Both Lies of P and Wolong are still on Xbox Game Pass. Both of them great games. Lies of P is the better one in my opinion, but Wolong was still fun for what it was. Mortal Kombat 1's next DLC fighter is joining the roster soon. On early access will start on February 28th to play as Peacemaker. Now there hasn't been an official video for the character yet, so we don't really know their moveset as of right now, or the cameo fighter that's going to come along with them. But as of right now, Peacemaker is preparing for his arrival in the new era, says the press release. Early access will be available on February 28th, along with the arrival of a new season around the same time. Details will be coming along later this month in February. So there you go. If you want to check out Peacemaker, that's his name. He'll be coming soon, and we'll probably be seeing a breakdown video of his character and his cameo fighter in the coming week. Limited Run Games has announced a new combo pack for the Switch and PlayStation, the new Shmup pack, which features 2 games that were released already on the Switch eShop and PlayStation 4, but for the first time physical, well, I guess for the first time in a long time physical for you to buy. One of them is called Glay Lancer, which is a space shooter. The heroine pilot decides to hijack a prototype fighter and go after her missing father. Get ready to shoot your way through battalions of hostile aliens as you guide your ship safely across the universe. And then the other game is called Gyeong, Gynoug. You'll face evil creatures as a winged soldier in this side-scrolling shooter classic. In an era between the Middle Ages and the early modern period, the demons have grown in power by feeding on the evil ambitions of people. Led by a being known as the Destroyer, they plan their attack. The Angel War stands up for the survival of the entire tribe and heads to Icus to prevent the spread of the evil spirit. So 2 games that are on the opposite end of the shmup spectrum. This game will be available for pre-order between February 16th and March 17th for about $35 if you want to check that out. All right, Mr. Krabs is coming to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 next week. This is, I believe, the first of 4 characters coming with the season pass. So Mr. Krabs, his moveset looks pretty fun. He's got a lot of references in his moveset to various episodes of the show that he was in. Some of them I don't understand because they're too new, but one of his moves is like doing the robot from that one episode where SpongeBob thought Mr. Krabs was a robot. There's also like a reference to, I think his like taunt is the world's smallest violin. He also has like his rapier from that one episode where he fights the that like monster thing, I think. There's also like he tries to get money on the ground and he flops over. He also has the shovel from when he was doing the treasure board game. His ultimate smash thing is the reference to the that one episode where the clam ate his first dollar or whatever, his $1 millionth dollar. I apologize. His $1 millionth dollar, and you essentially have the enemy character on the end of a rope, and the clam comes in and eats him. So pretty cool, pretty well done. If you want to buy the character separately, they will be separately, so you don't have to buy the whole season pass if you don't want to. Also going to be available in the season pass is Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Zuko and Ira from Avatar: The Last Airbender as well. So there you go. Pretty good stuff. If you want to check that out, I thought that Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 was a decent Smash clone. I thought it was way better than the original game. And definitely check that out if you haven't yet. It's got a pretty fun roguelite mode as well. All right. Geometry Survivor is a new roguelite survival auto shooter action game coming to various platforms. If you don't know what I just said, think of Vampire Survivors mixed with the graphic style of Geometry Wars. Geometry Wars was like a bullet hell where you were fighting various geometrical shapes, while Vampire Survivors has the auto shooting mechanics and stuff like that. But this looks pretty fun. I perhaps may pick it up if it's a cheapo kind of game. I've been a pretty big fan of these auto shooter games. I really liked Vampire Survivors, and I thought that Brotato was also a very fun time. And this Geometry Wars game looks like it's going to be another pretty decent time. This is coming on the 21st of February 2024. If you want to check out a trailer for that, head over to the Brain Seal Entertainment YouTube channel and check out the video for it. It looks pretty good. Here are some features. Use just one hand to control the direction of your ship, so you can do stuff with your other hand. It's an auto shooter, so your fires will automatically fire. Your weapons automatically fire. What did I just say? Each run allows you unique combinations of weapons. You earn credits and get permanent unlocks for your character. Enjoy a multitude of enemies, each with their own unique AI. 20 minutes of intense gameplay, retro visuals, and music straight from the 80s, along with delicious gameplay. Look at that. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. I might check this out if it's like a $5 to $10 game. If it's more, I might pass and wait for a sale. But looks pretty cool. I mean, if you like Geometry Wars, you definitely will like the art style at least. And if you like auto shooters, it might be the next one to feed your addiction. Finally, for today, here are some games coming to Xbox Game Pass in February. So we've already gotten Uncharted, Train Sim World 4, and Madden 24 on EA Play service. But now, if you the ones coming soon, between the 13th and 20th of February, we're going to be getting Resident Evil 3, Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night, A Little to the Left, Played Up, and Return to Grace. So if you want to check any of those games out, they'll be available pretty much one day after the other, between the 13th and the 20th of February. So there you go. All right, folks, I know this has been a long episode. I do appreciate you sticking around for so long. Let's go ahead and finish up with the final part of the show, which is the closing, where we do Guess That Song. No one got last week's song, which was the Green Hill Zone classic theme from Sonic Generations, for the re-release of Sonic X Shadow Generations. That's coming out soon from the State of Play. Let's see what song is in this episode of the Ferret 64 podcast. If you know the song name and the game that it came from, just go ahead and type it down below in the YouTube comments, and I'll give you a heart and a congratulations. Or put it in the Ferret 64 section on the Discord, and I will give you a super reaction. Let's hear what today's song is right now. Okay, if you know what that song name is and the game that it came from, type it down below or in the Discord, and I will give you your winnings, your earnings, your congratulations. This is no monetary value. All right, folks, I appreciate you sticking around for this episode. I'm going to do a real quick outro here for y'all since it's been so long, and my voice is also starting to give out here. I got that dry feeling in the back of my throat no matter how much water I take in right now. So I need the rest of my voice. But I am Yemmy the Ferret. I appreciate you listening. I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I apologize, Saturday. Sometimes we're doing Wednesday streams when we're doing Ferret Cafe podcast, which is on Thursday, every other Thursday around 8 p.m. If you want to check that out, there's a separate Spotify entry for Ferret Cafe podcast. I appreciate you checking that out. And then also I do the Film Freaks podcast where we talk about movies. The most recent episode is about Fight Club. The next episode, Batman and Robin. So if you want to check either of those out, right now Fight Club is available, and in 2 weeks, Batman and Robin will be the next movie we talk about. So thank you so much, y'all. I'm the Ferret, and I'm out of here. Have a good week or weekend. Adios. Ciao. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss. Bye-bye.
The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.